Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I am your host, Sarath Nay, and every episode I bring a comic all the way from all over the country to be part of the Stand Up Speakeasy. And we'll talk about their comedy journey. And coming to the stage all the way from Chicago is Joe-Medoff. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks
I
for
love how
having
that
me.
rhymed. You're welcome. Thank you for being my
Yeah.
guest today. It rocks. So you started comedy in college, and what college did you attend in Boston?
I went to Emerson. It's a very comedy oriented college. They had a lot of like alumni who went on to do stuff. Dennis Leary, Mario Cantone, Harris Whittles. It's like a lot of them. And I grew up in the area. Like I'm from Boston. So I started in college. I was super into comedy. Like always growing up, I wanted to do it since high school. And I it kind of like affected like where do I want to go to college for. So it's just like I found out about Emerson. I was like, all right, Emerson close by, cool, we'll do.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty cool school to go to.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was art school, filmy, all that stuff.
Awesome. Cool. And so you stuck around Boston for a couple years after you graduated and you saved up some money and you went out to Chicago. And what made
Mhm.
you go to Chicago than any other city in America to pursue stand up?
Well, I want like so I kind of wanted to like get a sense of things. I was in like I said, I'm from Boston. Emerson's in Boston. I graduated. Now it's like, all right, what now? Um, I wanted to do comedy a bit more. I didn't know if I should like stick around Boston, which has a great scene, but like it's kind of small. So I was like, all right, well, where should I? What should I do? Should I just go to New York? Should I maybe try for LA? I don't really know. Um, uh, I did comedy only once in New York, and it seemed enticing, but you hear a lot of like horror stories from them. LA, I had a lot of friends from college who went out to LA, and I went out there, and I just did not kind of click with the scene or the city at all. So I was just like, all right, this place might not be for me. My sister was going to U Chicago at the time, and I came out here to visit her, and I got on some shows and I checked out the mic scene, and we also had some really talented Chicago comics come through to Boston, and I saw them, and I was like, oh my, it's like New York, L.A. caliber, like oh my god. So you know, just Chicago has a comedy history, Second City, all that. So I was just like, well, I should probably move to some place where I can get a steady amount of stage time, where I can like develop as a human person being, and where I can also like afford rent. So uh, I was just like, all right, Chicago it is. So I saved up some money and came here.
Indeed. Awesome stuff.
Mhm.
And your path and my path are a lot alike because I was raised in a small town in Colorado and I moved out to LA to pursue my dreams, got them and came back. But comedy came
Mhm.
like way later on the tail end of that whole LA trip. So indeed.
Nice.
So, you were also a freelance, and you done some written stuff for Comedy Wire and Funny or Die. And what got you into like connecting with those folks and contributing to their websites?
Well, it was both kind of. It just kind of happened. In while I was in college, like I said, it's kind of like a comedy scene there at Emerson, and a friend of mine who worked for. I forget how Comedy Wire started, but like so they started off as like some kind of like freelance joke website. It didn't pay at first, but it was like this app website thing started by this guy who like knew he my friend interned at a comedy club in New York, and then this guy was like, hey, we're doing this thing, do you want in? And you get a plus one. So it was like a closed off thing to begin with, and he invited me, and you start like writing jokes, start writing like little headlines for it. Eventually they just like occasionally started doing more paying stuff. So, 20, 21 years old and they pay you some money. You're like, oh my God, I literally just got paid for writing a joke in the middle of a lecture that I'm not paying attention to. Like, it was really cool. And provided some really cool opportunities. Like, I had like a couple meet and greets in like New York and like these really fancy historic buildings that you had to get to know through a person. And as again, you're just like 20 years old, and I took the day. I just skipped school to get on a bus to go to New York City, and suddenly I'm just like overlooking all of Central Park, like from the middle and like spanning Manhattan, and I'm like, this can't be happening to me. This feels super surreal. Um, no, but you know, it was cool. Funny or Die was. Kind of a bit different. It was again another one of my friends from college who interned with them out there in LA. They had this app called Pitch. Were you on that? Did you know about that? Hear about it?
No.
Okay.
What's Pitch?
So so it was this app Funny or Die had for a while, like a couple of years. They just shut it down, but it was this. It's basically the same thing as what I just described, the Comedy Wire thing. They'd flat, except it wasn't like news articles. It was just someone would shoot out a prompt, and then people would write jokes for it. Occasionally, they start doing more and more sponsored stuff. So more people get invited. It gets a little more competitive. And then they started doing more paying stuff. And, in addition to the paying stuff, they'd be like, hey, this joke gets featured in one of our articles for a thing. So, a joke or two of mine got featured in the Funny or Die articles. So, I mean, just stuff like that. Just like getting to know people, connections, all that.
Indeed. One of my jobs out in LA was being a concert journalist. So I wrote for a paper that online newspaper that no longer is open anymore. But like they paid
Nice.
me $80 a year, but sometimes they forgot to pay me, and then but they're like, it's all your free concerts, all you want, and even the sold out ones that you want to pick. So I'm like, all right, that works for me too. So got to like Deftones and Cypress Hill and like Tech Nine and just Alice in Chains, just the whole nine, like all for free and stuff. It was fantastic.
Damn, that's pretty cool. Who was your
Yeah,
favorite?
I loved like there's two of them. Cypress Hill,
Mm-hmm.
Sold Out Shut at the House of Blues, and Lamb of God at the Hollywood Palladium on Halloween night because I
Oh,
dressed up as my Wu-Tang superhero, and everyone went nuts for
nice.
it. And like I was like on my tippy toes like the whole time writing on the set list and for my
Mm-hmm.
article. And some guy that was working production noticed me like from the stage, and he like I went to the very back, and he knew I was in my Wu-Tang costume. Like you can't miss me in that place. And he
Yeah.
drops the set list of Lamb of God right on my journal as I was writing, and he walked away, and I couldn't even thank him. It was so fast. I was like, man, that's so cool.
Nice. Do you still have the set list?
Yeah. It's in a journal that I have. Like I have like 18 of them, but like I gave them all the way to gave 6 of them away to my best friends and stuff. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty bad. So I still have like
Nice.
most of them. So
That's cool.
indeed, most definitely. And you've also been on some festivals. And what were your favorite festivals that you were a part of? Some memories from
Uh,
them.
well, there's a bunch of different. Oh man, I remember being. Well, the thing about the festival circuit, at least now, is that people think it's hard to describe like what festivals really are because they're all different. Like if you've been in festival, have you been in?
Yep.
Some people don't apply. You have. Okay. I. I mean, some have been just straight up memorable. The last one I did was the Boston Comedy Festival, which is a great festival, but this year it was especially memorable because it was Zoom. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to do a Zoom festival, but it seemed to work out fine. It was fun. Um, I remember the first comedy festival I ever did was when I was in college. It was I won't name it, but when I found out I got in, I was like so over the moon excited and like couldn't possibly. I was just like, oh my god, this is so great. I just posting on Facebook like I gotta blah, and uh, in addition to the application fee, then they were like, all right, so congrats, you got in. Now, can you send us like a bit more money? And I was like, oh, I was like, did not know that was a red flag to know. It was a bad sign. Um, so I mean, they're just like good ones. Some ones that are some of the ones that are the funnest aren't even the ones that have the kind of the shows you're looking for. Like I went out to the Cleveland Comedy Festival, which great festival. Don't get me wrong. A couple of the shows I was on, not that amazing, but it was truly one of the funnest weeks of my life because I got to go out and split a hotel room with some of my friends, and we would wake up, uh, hang out, go to a show, and then drink after the show till like 3 a.m. Then come back to the hotel room and that was just my life for a week, and that was honestly pretty amazing.
Indeed, most definitely. Oh, like I've been part of my own festival because like my hometown called it Surratt Fest, so they named it after me. So it's music and comedy. So that's like the only
Really,
one I've been on. Yeah, it's like we've
in
been celebrating
Colorado?
like yep, in Colorado.
Wow,
So it's a lot of fun. Like we have like stand up, and then we have like all genres of music. It's kind of like a Lollapalooza, you know. And
that's
then we have
insane.
it's like 4 days long, and we just take over some venues, and sometimes it's in people's houses. We just go crazy. It's so fun.
So you just take that's.
But
I
this
mean, I didn't have my own festival, but goddamn, that's so much cooler than anything I said.
oh, it's a blessing for sure. I was just being a journalist and writing about all the bands and interviewing all the comics. But I said I just went 3 comics, 3 bands, send me on my way to Florida, and I tagged one member of each band because I didn't know who wants to perform. They said we all went in on this, and I'm like, all right, I'll book every one of you. And so, well, one night show turned into a 3-day festival. That's how it was born. So it was all organic. But I'm bringing it to Daytona Beach this year, so I can put all my Florida pals on there and pay them all
Oh,
back for all the
nice.
stage time they set me up with. So it's gonna be a
That's
lot
how
of
you do
fun.
it. Hmm.
Absolutely, you gotta pay them back and stuff, and but fortunately this year I got picked for 6 of them, so they're not mine, or 6 total, but 4 of them are not mine. So I'm really excited. So I finally made it to good enough to be part of other
Nice.
people's festival. Yeah.
Other
So
people's. I know.
indeed, and you mentioned that you did the Zoom like with the Boston Comedy Festival, and what are your feelings with like the virtual settings as compared to the live settings?
Uh, I know this is like a big topic of debate for some people. I mean, obviously, I prefer live. I can't think of a person uh, who would prefer Zoom to live, provided live were an option. But I'm really liking the Zoom stuff so far. I've done some pretty great Zoom shows. I did, some Zoom mics where people just like go and hang. It's fun. It's pretty inconsequential. Zoom shows. I know a lot of clubs are like doing more virtual stuff. Back in Boston, the Comedy Studio was doing only virtual shows for a while, and it was great. They were really fun shows. Um, and I actually just did one. The thing about Zoom is that it does provide like a lot of cool opportunity to kind of market yourself and be around the world. Like I performed on Sunday. I just did a show. I got booked to do a show for I don't know the name of the organization, but it was like I did a show for Scottish Jews. Um, they just reached out to some Jewish comics, and they were like, "Yeah, we're the Chicago Jewish community," and I was like, "Oh, the Scottish Jewish community," and I was like, "I didn't know you existed, but I'm thrilled to be here." And they were super fun. So like, I mean, no complaints on Zoom on that end, but I mean, nothing compares to like a live. You're there in person. I just did a couple shows, maybe a couple weeks ago. Went up to Des Moines and distance, social, all that. Not like one of these crazy places, but just to be like back and like performing and like you're there and you hear the laughs in front of people and it's just like it. I don't want to be dramatic and be one of those guys who's like it was like taking a sip of water after like 9 months, but it felt good. I liked it.
Absolutely. I feel the same way about the Zoom shows. It's like I got to perform on two of them, one for like an LA one and one in Chicago, and I'm like, it's okay, but like you said, it's nothing compares to the live setting. Even if there's Florida is wide open and like my homeroom's open and there's like four people by the time I go up there because I always love to go at midnight, and so there's only four people
Mhm.
left. And even those four people can make their laughs carry all the way to the front, and it's just totally worth it. And I love it. So
It's no,
indeed,
I'm.
but go ahead.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
No, I was
Oh,
just gonna say I love doing like being one of the last to go up too. It's fun. Um, just like the four people, they're all tired. You're like, all right, can I crack? Can I? Yeah, let's see if we can go out on a high note.
absolutely,
Fun.
indeed. And I'm known as the cleanest, dirtiest comic in Daytona Beach. So it's like me.
What
I'm
is
saying, oh, go ahead.
what does that mean?
It means I'm like I don't use any curse words, but I get really dirty though. I get like filthy, filthy.
Okay.
So like my buddy coined me that name, and I'm like, all right, I love that name. So and then like a Chicago comic, he just moved there like 2 years ago. He goes, "You're the poet laureate of Pornhub," and I'm like, "That's another great nickname." So I think I'm gonna keep that.
Who said that?
Harry Breitner.
Harry
I'm not
Briner.
much.
Oh, I think I know him. Okay.
Yeah, he's a cool cat, and
Nice.
he just like gave me that nickname. I'm like, that's like one of the coolest names ever. So, and you post a lot on Reddit, stand up shots. And one time your tweet got on fuck Jerry. So I try to censor
Yeah.
myself, but you go ahead and you can say it. But
Okay. No, I won't either because I won't lie. I don't like them as an organization or as a meme sharing page. They're not my favorite people. So the Reddit thing, I mean, I just do that as a, people post stand-up shots. People post like their jokes and words with that to go, caption them. And I just started doing that as like an outlet because I don't have that much live performance anymore. And then it turned out to be kind of cool. Got me a few, Instagram followers. Got me a few YouTube views. That was nice. Just posting stuff, internet. It's a fun way to pass the time. Nothing major, really. And the thing about the F Jerry people, yeah, I don't like them. What I deleted my Twitter because I couldn't stand Twitter. I don't. I just couldn't do it. Everything I saw like getting big was making me depressed. I was like, really, people like that? Okay, why am I here? Like, um, it was crazy. But Twitter, when I had one, I just sent out this tweet. It was like a Hinge joke, The Office joke, something. And it just sat there for like 8 or so. It got like 6 likes, and then just sat there for like 8 days. And then all of a sudden, this is when I'm very new to Chicago. I'm out with my sister, and like my family is visiting, and we're getting donuts. And I didn't know, like we're just at this, like we're downtown, and my phone just like starts buzzing. It's like I gained like 5 new Twitter followers in like 3 seconds, and I was like, "What is happening?" Like my phone is blowing up, and the tweet is taking off, a lot of retweets, and I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And I wasn't really. I was flustered because I started. My bowels started to be irritated. So I ran across the street to this like fancy I like snuck into this fancy restaurant. Um, had diarrhea, and then I left and I saw my sister, and she was like, "Dude, you're on F Jerry," and like it was my tweet. They just like had my tweet and my handle right there, and it had like 60,000 votes, upvotes, faves, whatever Instagram calls it, and I was like, "Wow, that's cool." So I just it kind of unintentionally went viral. I don't really know how that happened. It was nice. And the thing is, I don't really care for that page. They at least took a lot of people's work without crediting them. There was a kind of a big scandal like a year after my thing happened. And I only mention the bathroom story is because I don't think the two are unrelated. I think getting on that meme page gave me diarrhea. I think that was the cause of it. I think they're not good people, and I think my body knew that. So.
Indeed. Just me, I like automatically in my head, I don't know why, but it reminded me of like Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark when he was trying to like, take that thing off and then put that thing on, and then the boulder comes chasing after him, and the boulder is like diarrhea, and it just comes out.
Exactly.
And
The first and only times in my life I will be compared to Harrison Ford, but I will take it. Only when diarrhea is involved am I compared to Harrison Ford.
Indeed. Awesome. And so another fun fact I found out about you is that you got paddled by a dominatrix on Sirius XM. And what was that like being paddled?
It was fun, I guess. There was a show. So there's this show called well, I don't know if I should name it, but it's a pretty like widespread Sirius XM show. The whole premise of the show is like it's a comedy show. They do comedy, and they also have a dominatrix. So they leave it up to the dominatrix. Well, they leave it up to the audience. You perform comedy, and then the host goes, "Hey, should this person get money, or should we subject them to a dominatrix?" And I went up to a crowd of people. This was also for the Boston Comedy Festival a couple of years before the virtual one. I went up to a crowd. It was one of those shows where people, like, it was a show after a real show. So like they had a real show, and then it's like 11:30 on a Wednesday, and the crowd is about to leave. And they're like, no, don't leave just yet. Please stay up until 1 a.m. the day before work to watch whatever this shit is. And some people just like their whole audience was people who just wanted to leave. They were tired. They had work the next day. And I go up first, and I'm like 24, 23. I'm just like fresh. I didn't look like this either. I'm like fresh faced, and I'm like dressed sort of nice. And I go up and I'm joking about like cats and dogs and all that. And then like the second the show is over, the host comes out. They're like, what do you think? And obviously I got the dominatrix. So it was a fun, weird little experience. I don't really know if you can find it anywhere, but it's a interesting little story. I think that show is a lot of like open mic comics will be like, oh yeah, I was on Sirius XM, and like 90% of it is because of that show. A lot of people that I think that's a pretty well-known fact. I definitely, yeah.
That's awesome. That's like the coolest, one of the coolest Sirius XM stories I've ever heard. Like probably the only coolest Sirius XM story I ever heard, for sure. That's the best. So we're raising funds for Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, and why did you pick that Comedy Showcase raise funds for?
Oh, it's comedy related. Like, I don't know, comedy club needs money. So many venues right now are closing down or just like having to relocate because of COVID. The fact that there is no relief is kind of astronomically insane and weird. Astronomical is not a word I should have used right now because that doesn't apply, but whatever. Just performance venues need our help. Someone I know posted about that the other day, and I was like, all right, that's cool. A couple of my friends have performed. I haven't performed there. I don't know the people who run it. I haven't performed there. I've never asked to. But I know people like from Ann Arbor, from the Michigan area, who say like that is the place, and I'm like, oh well, we need to preserve those spaces. That is the place. Spaces need to be saved.
Absolutely, and it's such an awesome thing that you're doing for them, and I hope that I saw their how much they raised so far, and I hope they beat that record 10 times over.
Yeah.
So We wish you all the best out there in Ann Arbor. And Joe, I was hoping to go on tour to ask you these questions. So, with that being said, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Man, I've thought about this a lot. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't like necessarily the class. Like I could make kids laugh in school. Like I remember the first laugh I ever got after I made my whole class laugh. I just felt like something activated, like a shock wave went through my body. I was just like, oh, I don't know what this is, but I like it. Um, and then I don't know. I was like making people laugh. My friends make my friends laugh. I started. Sort of, I guess I would have to say like Judd Apatow's Funny People in like 2009 came out, and I loved that movie, and I was like, oh wow, stand up is like I loved comedy beforehand, and I don't know, I just loved like that, and then I started getting into comedy, and then I started writing jokes in high school, like 14, 15 years old, and I didn't tell anyone I wanted to be a comedian. Um, so I started doing that. My what else? I don't know. Just also listen to my friends were also really into comedy, like sitting and listening to like Mitch Hedberg and like Carlin with like a lot of my friends in high school, just sitting around someone's iPod in a room, just like listening, not watching something, but like listening. So like you're really taking it in. I'm a big album guy, I think, still because of that. I don't really like a special. Like I think comedy should be listened to. Um, but I don't know. I just always wanted to, and I guess just years of having it inside me of just like wanting to perform and like wanting to know what it was like. I don't know. And then I just kind of went and I did it in college the second I could, and I just kind of haven't looked back.
Awesome, and I agree that movie Funny People was fantastic. Only because like my favorite part of course is when the RZA appeared and he was like working with Seth Rogen. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
I didn't know who RZA was back then, and I was just like, I think when when I started getting into the Wu-Tang Clan, and I like saw who they all was, I was like, because I had read Funny People's Wikipedia page more than I heard Wu-Tang. Like the RZA, I was like, oh my god, from Funny People. That's
Yeah.
it's crazy. Also, it's a good movie, but I look back on it now and it's like totally different because I know the lifestyle now and like I know people and I just the first like 30 minutes, hour of the movie when Seth Rogen just goes to an open mic and makes friends with like basically the movie's version of Will Ferrell or something. And he just like makes friends after one open mic. He's like, yeah, come write jokes for me. I just want to like scream, like, okay, that would never happen. That would never happen. But, you know, it's a movie, whatever.
Indeed. I need to go rewatch that movie because now that I'm in the mix too, it's like okay, now I get stand up and so Joe, what is your favorite? What was the film like when you first performed stand up?
Well, when I first performed, I did it. I performed the first time I ever did it was at a music open mic, and I think a lot of people did because there are way more music open mics than there are comedy ones. Um, and where I'm from, it was at a. It's like I did it right before I went to college. It was like a month or two before I left. Me and my one of my friends from home, we were just like writing stuff together. We're like, dude, we should do it. Like it would be so cool. And I know a couple like local comedians who went to this one music mic at this place cafe we loved. So we went over there, and I wrote all my jokes, and we went over there, and we go. I'm trying to remember what it like felt like. It was 5 minutes, and I'm trying. All the jokes I wrote were, I don't know. I forget what I talked about. My friend had a really funny joke about yogurt. I remember that. He talked about yogurt, and I don't. It's a music. Here's the thing about music mics: is that music mics you have to. The people are there to talk and like to not pay attention. So if they're not paying attention, then that's what they're there to do. Like they didn't know there would be a comedian whose you need their attention. So uh, I go up and I get that they're laughing for the first part of my set. And I was like, oh, wow, this feels so crazy. Like, it feels so, because I've been in that cafe before. And I'm just like looking out. I'm like, it feels weird to know that this is where the okay, I guess the room looks like this from this point of view. Uh, and the middle, I had lost them, but I just kind of powered through it. I remember feeling horrified, but I just went through anyway. And whatever I said at the end, like the last minute and a half of my stuff went well. And so I got them back and they were laughing, and then I left. And I just got off stage like, did I just do that? Did I just fucking do that? Like, that feels like I've wanted to do that for years. Is that what it's like? Like, it felt pretty good. I know a lot of people who talk about their first time. What was your first time like? Like, did it go well? Did it go bad?
It was like every feeling in the world I have had. Like I was at a music open mic too in a cafe, and we're so similar, and
Okay.
I love it. And it was in Los Angeles, in at a place called the Jump Cut Cafe in Studio City, and I was so
Okay.
nervous that I have a Wu-Tang Clan inspired superhero alter ego and
Mm-hmm.
mask and all, like head to toe Wu-Tang, and I dressed up as my Wu-Tang superhero. I went up and did 5 minutes, and I went off stage, switched out my clothes, and changed into my Rage Against the Machine shirt that I saw him in concert in L.A.
Nice.
And then I walked back in, and the host was like, "Hey, do you have 5 more minutes? Because I need to fill some time." And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, dude." And he goes, "So, are you pulling an Andy Kaufman on me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I am." So it's like, it was so much fun. But and then I got hooked,
Nice.
and then I moved back home to Colorado and just started doing open mics. And then my festival happened, and then my first show ever happened, and it was my roast. And so I'm glad I got that roast out of the way because it was brutal. It's just like it's
Yeah.
like an hour long of just hilarity, and I'll send it
Oh,
to you after the show, and I think you'll love it. So it's
oh, dude,
fantastic.
please do. Roadster. But did your set go well the first time? Like,
Parts of
did
it
you do
did.
well? Okay.
Parts of it did. And like I kept some of the jokes because like from like 7 years ago, and I still like, but they're much more polished and they're much more. I just built upon it and I made it into a story like thing, and it's just I include Daytona now into the original joke that I had, and I still joke about that glory hole that I accidentally found myself at in
Oh,
LA, and
nice.
and I'll send you that video too, like the best performance I put on in Atlanta when I went on tour, and it was in front of like a sold out crowd, and it was bonkers, and I was like, all these laughs, and it took so long for the laughs to get by this time. I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 minutes. These laughs need to hurry up and pass by so I can jump into my next one because I didn't want to step over the laughs because it just took it was just an amazing feeling to not overstep those laughters.
Yeah,
So
to just soak them all in. Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
asked because I feel like a lot of comics think way too much about their first set, especially newer people. They're like, "Oh, my first set went great, so that means I'm gonna be great," or like, "Oh, my first set went bad, and that means I should that." And it went bad, and then I kept going, and then I got better, and I don't know. My first set went all right, but I really don't think it matters. Like, your first set doesn't matter. It's what you do after that.
Absolutely. And that, I used to like love performing on shows, but I felt like there was so much pressure. And now I'm just happy just performing at my open mic in my homeroom and just having fun up there and like learning to love stand up again. Because stand up, if you do it too long enough, and it'll bring you down. So I'm trying to like build myself up again and make people laugh and find that love that had when I first started off. So I'm
Mhm.
going back to that instead of just being pressured to do shows. So that don't even pay you. It's like
That don't even pay.
yeah, indeed. So, Joe, you mentioned that you prefer comedy records over watching specials, and I do too.
Mhm.
Like, I can't stand watching like specials. I just can't. But I love listening to them. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Oh boy, special. Well, anything Norm Macdonald's done, um, those are good. In terms of record, I think my favorite album is George Carlin's "A Place for My Stuff." I listened to that one a lot in high school, and like it still kind of holds up. Just like material. It's like not a hard. It's like half stand up, half like radio parody. And luckily radio isn't super old that you don't know what's happening. Still, I don't know. It's like half skits and still really funny. What's her name? Aparna Nancherla. Her album's on Spotify. It's really good. I listen to that sometimes. Um, and there's a good local Chicago comic who had an album come out. His name's Cameron Gillette. It's called The Best Set I've Ever Done. Something like that. But the best set I have ever done. But the album's great. A lot of people were posting about it. I don't really know him, but a lot of people were posting about it. A lot of mutual friends. I was like, all right, I'll check it out, and I thought it was really funny. So that was cool. Favorites, yeah, probably those ones. I love special. I love particularly albums, but it's so hard to like see what has happened to albums now because. And people have this complaint about specials now. They'll say, oh, there are too many specials. They'll make the joke like, oh, a special was a special back in the day. That's why it was special. And I think that's like the comedy album industry doesn't exist anymore. It's such a bummer because like no one's putting out albums or like CDs or records or anything. And it hurts in so many ways because that means like I feel like a lot of comics will produce their own album, and I just don't think it's like the status symbol it used to be of, oh, I had an album. It's like, well, yeah, because you and two of your producer friends got together and recorded a show of yours. Like anyone can have an album if they do that. Like it just meant more when like a record label was behind you, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm all for people producing their own stuff, but I know as just like I would like, oh, he has a great album out to be a badge of honor. Now, if you put an album out, if you have more than 5 friends, you are the #1 selling comedy album on iTunes. So I like everyone I know who puts like not to diminish anyone's accomplishments, but like everyone I know who has an album out, they put it out and then 3 people buy it. And then it's the number. It's like, oh, tight. You beat Dane Cook's 2006 album? Really? Okay, cool. Congratulations.
That's so true. And like I released an album and then I'm working on another one and it just my first one it's okay.
Now I feel bad.
My first one was recorded in a pool hall in Daytona Beach, and then it was just straight through comedy, like 25 minutes, and boom, and then this one, my second one recording is just my 5-minute sets, open mic sets at my homeroom, and it's all in the same venue with 4 people in the back, and hoping they laugh loud enough for my album. So it's just like a concept album. I'm just gonna have fun with this thing. I'm not gonna take it seriously, or I don't want to beat Dane Cook's record or anything. But like, I would just want to do it just for fun and just be like, yeah, all right, I got 2 of them, and that's all I ever want. Just 2 albums and no specials. You can just watch my stuff on YouTube. So, and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, but are they on Spotify?
They're not. I only have physical copies, and then I have like these. I made those lanyards for my festival, and I put like the digital downloads on them. Like people can just like wear the lanyards all across the festival, and then have my album hang off their necks and stuff. So it's pretty neat. Or in their belt loop or whatever. So yeah.
Nice. And mind you, I just got to say, if ever, I'm not even at the stage where I'd produce my own album, but the second I am, I guarantee you I will. So I will be eating my own words. So
the good thing is I'm having my buddy, he has his own studio in Colorado. And so the first one, he didn't even charge me to mix and master it. So this one, I asked him to charge me for it. So it's pretty neat. So it's all good. But Norm Macdonald is like my favorite. One of my favorite movies is Dirty Work. And some of the folks that you mentioned were in movies and film and TV. And I want to know if it's sitcom, sketches, and comedy films are.
Okay. Comedy film, I got to say Dirty Work too. Dude, I was raised on Dirty Work. Like my parents, I don't know how. We were just at like some thrift store and it was in like the bargain bin or something. And we would just watch that movie so much. when I was like 9 too. I look back on it, I'm like, dude, why did you let me watch that? Like that's, I don't know, but maybe that was one of my comedy influences. Maybe specials, sketches, sitcoms. Well, I Think You Should Leave on Netflix just came out. It hasn't really influenced me, but it's amazing. It's really smart, really brilliant. It like toes the line between like normal SNL regular sketch and like Monty Python weirdness might be too weird. It's a, it toes the line between sketch club and sketch alt, which not a, yeah. So I Think You Should Leave is great. Auntie Donna, that Australian sketch group, just came out. They're pretty funny as well. And then there's okay, so like movies, TV shows. I'm watching right now. I'm watching Better Things. Pamela Adlon. It's on FX. It's amazing, and I think it's just real and really funny. I think it's great. Yeah, and then in terms of movies, I mean, obviously the greats, Airplane, and like Airplane, Dirty Work, Anchorman. It's hard. I'm trying to think of a recent example, but it's hard because I feel like there haven't really been like that many great, funny movies that came out recently.
Indeed, most definitely. And they I've been watching the Tim Robinson. I think you should leave on YouTube some clips because I don't get Netflix or nothing, but it's pretty funny so far. Like the airplane one and like where he like the adult baby and like he goes to the back and he starts crying and Tim's and his lady have those headphones on and so I watched that one. That's a pretty cool sketch. And,
oh, dude, that's one of my favorite. Will Forte is one of my favorite sketches.
Yeah, so Will Forte, there it is. And if you can go on tour with any comedian locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Literally anyone who would take me, because I would love to go on tour. Oh boy, locally, nationally. I think Dimitri Martin is if he ever goes back out on tour once COVID's all over. I love Dimitri Martin. I think he's one of the most underrated, greatest of all times. I think he's on the comedy Mount Rushmore, and he should be talked about more. I don't know, maybe like Mike Birbiglia. I'm just trying to think of like people who have the audience I want to attract, which I don't think is a very big audience anymore. Just like fairly educated people. I don't know. I don't know. That sounded weird. But I mean, I would love. Yeah, I mean, really, anyone who would take me, I guess.
Indeed, and some local comic that you'd go on tour with.
Okay. Local comic. Shoot. There's some great. Really great. There's a lot of great talent in Chicago. I'm just trying to think of who would actually ask me to do it. Not that any of the people I'm listing will. There's a Matty Ryan. He's a really funny Chicago comic. He's been on like Comedy Central, all that. Alex Cuman. She's also really funny, really good. Sohrab Fairouza. He's an insanely good Chicago comic. He'll probably be famous soon, if I had to guess. And in terms of Boston, I've been out of Boston for a few years, so I don't even know if some people are still doing it. But this guy Jae-Yong Lee, who's insanely funny, he was like at one of the first mics I went to, and he was just insanely good. So him, maybe.
Awesome, great stuff. And if we spoke of my roast earlier as my first show, and if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would like to get roasted by?
Oh, I mean, the obvious ones. I mean, Rickles, probably. Rodney Dangerfield, um, uh, Joan Rivers. Oh my God, Joan Rivers. That would be insane. Um, Jeff Ross, just for efficiency. I feel like he's the guy, and Patrice O'Neill. I just saw the documentary, and I feel like he would be the one person to say things that cut me to my soul.
Indeed. And where do you see your comedy during the next 5 years?
Oh boy. Well, we'll see when COVID ends. We'll see that as a factor. Um, Honestly, I'm just going to keep my head down, do my work. Probably wherever I am, probably just going to stick around, try to get into the clubs, perform at the clubs as much as I can. I want to start differentiating myself. I feel like a trap a lot of comics will do is that they just start performing and then they start going to mics and they go to shows and they don't really do anything to set themselves apart, no presence of any kind. So I'm trying my best to think about outside the box, a lot harder than it seems. But I don't know. Hopefully, and fingers crossed, maybe I'll be writing for something somewhere. I'd like to have like some kind of writing job. That would be really tight. Um, and I don't know. For any of that to happen, really, just gotta like put your head down, write some sketches, write some screenplays, perform as much as you can, and just. I mean, it's all really just huge. I mean, for everyone, it's the chances any of us do anything or going to use this correctly this time astronomical. So you really just have to do your work and see what happens.
Absolutely, most definitely. And you spoke of writing sketches and screenplays and such. And which other forms of comedy would I be back into, like improv, sketch? You mentioned sketch, directing, comedy acting, etc.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was the question?
Which other forms of comedy would I venture off into, like improv, directing, acting, etc.?
Well, I would absolutely love to do sketch. It was something that was on my bucket list like for a very, very long time, and like kind of a reason I moved to Chicago and like get involved in the Second City and like the IO. But that's like a whole bunch of like once you get here and you're like, which one should I take? Like that conversation is entirely different. So that is a whole big thing. So like I put that off in order to like do stand up and get familiar with the scene here and it sucks because once I felt I was ready, I was like, oh, tight. Well, let me try doing sketch now. COVID happened. So, it took everything off the map. But I want to get into sketch. I write sketches like freelance by myself. I've never really done anything with them, but I'd like it to be a thing maybe one day. And improv, improv is way too hard. It's so, I wish I had the mental fortitude to do it, and I just can't. I know there's like an improv stand-up war going on, but improvisers don't get their credit. It's insanely hard. And direct. I mean, yeah, I just want to like maybe write a bit more. Maybe a screenplay or two. Got to get that under my belt. Pilot. You definitely need a pilot. Just pay my dues writing. Directing might be fun. And I don't know, maybe I should pursue acting a little harder. I'm not handsome, but no one needs to be. There's roles for everyone in a movie. So I don't know. I don't know. Could be fun. Could be something you need. It's definitely a skill you need. So I don't know. I'm really game for whatever. But if anyone is listening, sketch and acting, or if anyone wants to be in a sketch troupe with me or cast me in a movie or some shit.
Indeed, and Chicago's a perfect city for all of that. And my buddies are in a sketch group called After Dark in Chicago, and there's like Amber Autry and Nick.
Yeah, Amber. I was gonna say I love Amber and Mike. Mike Atchison? Is he in that too?
Yep.
Oh, I love Mike so much.
He's awesome. And we spoke of Harry earlier, and Harry's in that group, and Forrest Scott. So yeah, if you want, reach out to Amber and see if they're still doing sketches, and bring your sketches to life, and don't let the COVID stop you. Just keep on going.
No problem.
even if they do Zoom sketches and they're even funnier too. They're funny too, so
Amber, Mike, if you're listening to this, no pressure on doing any of my sketches, but it's cool.
Awesome, awesome. And let's see here. What is your favorite joke a comic's ever written?
Oh boy. Favorite joke. I mean, it really depends on. There's so many. It might be a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but whenever someone asks like, "Oh, what is your favorite?" But really, favorite anything? Like, what's your favorite horror movie? What's your favorite comedy movie? Like, what's your favorite movie? I'll be like, there's not really an answer for that because like it depends on your mood. It depends on like it's all subjective. But my favorite joke anyone has ever written. There's a really, really great Boston comic by the name Dan Bolger. He's a really funny guy. He's been on like Craig Ferguson. He has an album on Spotify as well. And on that album, he has a joke about Charles Darwin. That's one of my favorite jokes. If I try to emulate anything in my comedy, I want my comedy career to be exactly like that joke. It's just smart and funny. And should I tell it? I don't want to tell it. Like, do I have to tell it?
If you don't want to, you don't have to. But
okay.
If you want to, you can.
Okay, I'll try to I'm sorry, but I'll try to paraphrase it where it's like he talks about Charles Darwin for a bit, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy how he just kind of came back and he's like a scientist, and then he comes back to civilization. He's like, I was watching pigeons for the last 7 years, and let me tell you, there's no God. Like, I don't know. It was obviously I don't do it as well. I recommend listening to that album. It's really great.
Awesome. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after your set is over?
Just to laugh, really. I mean, my comedy, I really just talk about whatever I think is funny. I try not to be personal, at least not this stage in my career, just because, I don't know, I don't see why the audience should care about an amateur comedian. Like, they really shouldn't care about my life. Like, I should be able to reach out to them and be like, hey, don't you think the bank is weird? And they should be like, it is. Like, that's what I would like. I would like the audience to basically be like, oh, shit. I would like them to feel validated. I would like them to be like, oh, that's a funny feeling. I felt that. And I would really just like them to laugh because so many people, so much comedy now is like, clapter. It's just like not even jokes, and it's like people just trying to, I don't know what people are trying to do. And people if you buy a ticket to a comedy club, people are trying to forget their problems, and it's your job to help that.
Indeed, most definitely. And Joe, Stand Speakeasy is like a secret society of stand-up comedians, and it's like the Roaring Twenties, the Prohibition, if you will. And so for people to be on the stand-up Speakeasy, you gotta get nominated like you did, like you were nominated. So with that being said, Joe, what Chicago and Boston comics would you like to see on the future episodes of the stand-up Speakeasy?
Oh boy, Chicago and Boston comics. Well, for Chicago, there's a lot of great people. I can't name them all. Has Amber already been on?
Yep, she's been on.
Okay, Amber's been on. All right, scratch her off. There's some people I really like around Chicago. It's Matt Brown, Matt Banwart, Marcus Banks. God, there's so many people I want to name. I feel guilty I want to give you like 80 names. I guess, I mean, in terms of Boston, there's, again, I don't even know who's still performing, but David McLaughlin, Chris Post, oh boy, God. I need to like send out a mass email and be like, hey, you're still doing comedy? Oh, Sam Ike. Sam Ike is hilarious. Yeah, that's sure. Those are my answers.
Mass from Massachusetts for sure. So the mass email, waka waka. But yeah.
Waka.
pull the tomatoes. I'm already wearing red. But I love Amber. Like when performed on the Red Line Tap, she was one of the first Chicago comics I met, and she was a genuine sweetheart. So I love her, and she's fantastic. And so, Joe's information scrolling on the bottom there on Instagram. That's Jokes Medoff and Venmo Joe-Medoff, and we're raising funds for Ann Arbor Comics case. And all the information is on the bottom of the description in the description box below, so you can just click on them and just follow and donate if you want to. And with that being said, Joe, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
No. I love you. Thank you for watching. You're great. No, I mean, thank you for listening to me talk about my life. I got no other. I can't ask anything else of you. You just listen to talking to me about my stupid little comedy career for like an hour, dude. I can't further impose anything on you. But like, I don't know. Have a good day. Just support your local comics as much as you can, and that includes like retweeting stuff, sharing as much as you can, just getting video clips on people's timelines, because you never know who will share it, and that could change someone's life. And please just support local comedy. Just go out to your local stuff.
Absolutely. Support local everything, everyone. And with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm Srethne for Joe-Medoff, and thank you so much for being my guest today. It means the world to me, and I can't wait to see you in Chicago when I go up there to visit in August and October. And hopefully everything opens up and I get to see you perform. That'd be awesome. And
Dude, please go.
Absolutely. And Joe, thank you so much. And for everyone else at home watching, thank you so much. And take care of each other. Be well. And